Okay.
Okay, hi Alex, how are you?
I'm good,
So,
Mohammed. How about yourself?
yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So, this podcast will be about remote jobs of US or European countries. So, as you highlighted Pakistani talent, and you said that uh, companies or startups should hire from Pakistan, as people in Pakistan are satisfied with $1,000 or $2,000 per month, and it creates a win-win situation. So, but the problem we are facing is that many people, especially our students, don't know about these remote opportunities or don't have awareness about it. So, there are some questions from the people which I would like to ask from you. So, my first question would be, what is a remote job?
Absolutely, and thank you so much, Mohammed, for having me on and for taking the time to, you know, reach out to me. I really appreciate that. I'm super excited to talk about this stuff because I don't think it gets enough attention. And also, I really want to motivate people in Pakistan, especially young people who are just starting out, to consider what this would be like. I had some really great colleagues in my last job who just graduated from university, really talented, truly amazing individuals who actually helped me learn some things about how to do my job better despite their youth. So I really think this is a great idea, but it's not always obvious, right? So, we can get into that. To answer your question, what is a remote job? A remote job is a little different than an office job because, in life, we are trained to think, especially I think in a lot of countries. In the US, it was like this until maybe 2017, 18. So, it's not just Pakistan, it's the US too. This idea that, go to university, study for 4 years, take a degree, and then go into the market. And, a job will be a place where you go and sit, or maybe stand if you're lucky, if you get to move around, and work for 8 hours, 9 hours, depending on what their boss says and what kind of arrangement you can get. And work really meant having yourself in the seat, present, right? So it was interesting because, of course, you had job roles and job titles, but unless you were working at one of those really, I would say, significant companies that people know about. For example, I really am a big believer in Amazon as one of those types of companies. Your role was more about your presence than it was about the value you created. So this is where remote work actually is different, where a remote job is different. Because a remote job is not about being present. There are times when it's important, depending on the company. But what a remote job is it's the exchange of your value for money. And so you're basically giving value to the company. And the important difference here is that whereas an in-person job, you're expected to be there a certain number of hours, expected to be present. Most good remote companies don't care if you're only present for a few hours a day, or even if you're not present online, right? Like you're not on Slack, but you are delivering value because that's what they're paying for you for, and that's what they expect. And Mohammed, this is one last thing I'll say, is that a remote job is actually the gateway to a mindset of the rich, because I think the rich have known this for a long time, that it's not about time. It's not about trading your time for money. It's about trading your value for money. So the remote job is also a gateway to a better way of thinking about value creation and about money, which I think a lot of people will benefit from as they start to evolve in the space. So yeah, that would be my answer. Sorry, it's a little long, but what do you think about that? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's great, man. It's great because create a value and you're providing. Then hours shouldn't be the problem. Like you should not work like 8 hours, 9 hours, or 12 hours. If you can do that work in 4 hours or 3 hours and provide the same value or can be more efficient. So not only you are saving your hours, then you are providing value. You can build your own side hustle, or you can work on your own side hustle. You can make your own schedule. So there's a lot of flexibility over here. Like you are location independent. As far as I believe that life covers three aspects like time independence, location independence, and money independence. So through remote job, I believe we can have time independence and location independence.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's a great opportunity. And yeah, so my next question would be like, many people consider remote job, or they mix up remote job with freelancing. Like they think that freelancing and remote job is same. Is it true? Is it that so?
No, they're not the same thing. They're definitely different. I'm glad you asked. So, one of the things I've been trying to share with people about remote work that I think is really important is to get a remote job, and we can talk more about this in a little bit, but to get a remote job, it helps to stand out a little bit, to have some kind of reason why people should hire you as opposed to another person. And I can go in much more detail if you want me to, but in freelance, actually, you don't have the security of your employer knowing, hey, I'm going to be able to rely on this person long term and they're going to grow with me. So I'm willing to invest in the idea that I'm not 100% sure yet every single way they add value. Hopefully a remote employer knows how you're going to add value in the first 90 days, but after that, it's a little less certain. So they're taking a risk on you and you're taking a risk on them that there's going to be a long-term fit, which means who you are is much more important than the exact thing you can deliver. That's a big thing about remote jobs. It's about who you are. Whereas when you are a freelancer, it's 100% about what you can deliver. That's it. That's the only thing. There's no thoughts about greater potential beyond the immediate offering. So for example, let's say you and I and 3 other people are all copywriters, and we all list ourselves as freelance copywriters. Well, there's a very clear expectation that this person is a copywriter, so I'm going to get copywriting services from him. Now, if every one of us says nothing about our copywriting skills that really makes us stand out, then freelancing becomes a competition over price, right? So every single person will say, hey, I can take it for $10, I'll take it for $5, I'll take it for $3, and it's a race to the bottom, as we say. But the only way you can stand out in freelancing is if you get super specific about the type of value you can deliver. So you say, I am the #1 copywriter for, I don't know, beauty products in the e-commerce natural space, right? So now you're a very specific niche. And then anyone who has that kind of business can keep coming back to you for that one service. But the problem is, if you ever want to do anything else, if you ever want to grow, it's a lot harder because you don't have that kind of long-standing trust or that idea that there's going to be a period of time beyond the service you deliver. So you'll always have work if you're really, really good and really specific, but it won't be the same kind of opportunity to grow and develop that you can have if you're a remote employee. So that's a big difference between the two. Mohammed, what do you think? Do you have anything to add to that?
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely agree with you that freelancing is very hard. It's like building your business. It's like doing entrepreneurship. So if I compare freelancing with remote job, I see there's more stability in remote job because you are getting fixed monthly salary and other benefits like the 9-to-5 people get. But in freelancing, it's client to client, it's project to project. So there's you get sustainability if you work like for 3 or 5 years or 2 years. But majority don't have that risk appetite to go that distance, and they need to work on their monthly income. They need to generate a stable income. But in freelancing, in my experience, as I have also done freelancing, I wasn't able to earn for like a year or half or 2 years, and there was so much pressure in freelancing because there was so much competition, and I didn't have that unique value proposition to offer. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. With more job, we can save our hours. We have our monthly fixed income. We have the stability. So
remote
job is more secure than freelancing. Yeah,
definitely
more. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, more secure, and there's more growth opportunities. I think it's easier to grow.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have the same I think one thing about freelancing is just like a business, the earning potential is higher over time if you do a really good job and you really get into a niche. But the reality is that you cannot, I would say freelancing should come second. Remote jobs should come first. If you really kind of have that stability already, I think there is one great saying actually about business, and someone said, every great business I've ever given money to, it was the founder of Y Combinator, the San Francisco-based accelerator for startups, the really famous one. And the guy said, every great business I've ever given money to, it started as a side project. And the reason he said that is because you can only really do well at business if you have enough stability. Most people who don't, they'll lose their mind. And I know I personally had that happen to me. I remember, Mohammed, we were chatting about that, right? My business in China. And I've started to take a gentler approach to life since that experience. But I think, it's important consideration. Yeah, man. No, it's one of those things too, because I run into a lot of people from Pakistan now in my in-mails, in comments, who say they're freelancers, and I just think that has to be hard. I hope that we can help more of them get remote jobs instead, so then they can have that as a backup and an experiment instead.
Yeah. That. I see that you are building a platform to promote Pakistani talent, and you're working on it. Can you tell us a bit about it, or can you share your vision on it, like how through that platform get remote job of US or Europe companies, or how you can bridge the gap between those companies and people of Pakistan?
Absolutely, yeah. So I won't plug the platform too much right now because I'm still working on the design a little bit. One of the people helping me with it told me it's too ugly. So hopefully in a day or two it will look even better. But yeah, to answer your question about bridging the gap, right? Probably the most important thing for bridging the gap is to, as you said in the very beginning, to really find the right kinds of companies who are looking to leverage. So we're about to go into a recession, right? And when a recession comes, people tend to cut costs. And so one of the things that I think about this time period that's really important, it's a good thing is, so smart startups who really want to succeed, they will hire from markets where they can get a good deal and where the other people can get a good deal. I think there's this misconception that paying lower salary for people in some countries means that you're giving them less money than you should be. And I would counter that by saying everything is in balance. So for example, in Pakistan, the cost of living is less than 1/10 of what it is in my home city of Washington, D.C. So if I got paid the amount in Pakistan that I can get paid or that I would get paid in Washington, D.C., it would be, what I'm trying to say is that to live a good life in Washington, D.C., you need a lot more money than Pakistan. So I think that there's paying people at a rate that makes sense for the company and makes sense for them is actually a win because it unlocks all the potential of a remote job. And so presenting that as a reason to hire goes into the interest of the companies. That's number one, right? Really get them at where they need it. Not try to be idealistic about it, because I love to be idealistic. I'd love it if we lived in a world where everybody got paid the same, but that would be a very different world from the one we live in right now. So I try to be realistic. So that's number one. Number two would be there's a bit of a bias about South and Southeast Asia. It's seen as a freelance place, right? And I want to change that. I want people to see Pakistan not as a place to hire freelancers, but as a place to hire qualified, talented people who know how to deliver value over time, and it can evolve. And I think that half of that is advocacy, which is what I'm doing and what I hope my partner and I and increasingly a community of people can do, is that advocacy. The other half of it is for the people in Pakistan who are applying to take the right approach. And I think this is hard because nobody teaches this. Nobody teaches in America either, to be honest. There are plenty of people just like me who focus on the American market or on the European market, trying to do the same thing, trying to help people position themselves. So I want to be clear about that. It's not a unique problem for Pakistan, but my passion is how can we do this for Pakistani people, help them do three things really well. One, know what they want. So it's really important that you know what you want and you don't waste your time applying for things that you don't want, because a lot of people will do that. They'll apply for 1,000 jobs, and I promise you 995 of those jobs, maybe 990, are not a good fit for that person, but they're just doing it because they really think that's the way. So that's the first thing, helping people know what they want, because then that gets to the second thing, helping them position themselves to get that job, right? Because job is an exchange, right? You know this, I think now, right? You're not just working for the other person. They're also hiring you, which means that, both of you need to like each other, but it starts with you positioning yourself very clearly for that. So for example, let's say you want to work in an e-commerce company, and you want that company to be an ethical e-commerce company, so one that is good for the planet. Well, then you should be positioning yourself so that if someone wants to hire someone who cares about that, then you're there, right? And of course, positioning doesn't just work based on values you have around the world. There's a ton of different ways to position yourself, but key thing is that you have to work on that. And then the third thing would be, getting smart about the application process. So I just wrote for 6 days of different tips about getting right about the application process in my newsletter. And there's a lot of small things you can do, like building out your network in advance before you even apply to a company, making sure that when you actually apply, your CV and LinkedIn are ready to go, and a couple other things I could get into. It's all in my newsletter. If you don't mind sharing the link along with this video, I think a lot of people could get benefit from it. But yeah, these are the things, right? And like I said, for me, I want to focus on Pakistan because I want that talent from Pakistan to be successful. I have a lot of reasons for that, which I could talk about at length, but I don't want to bore your listeners. But for me, this is particularly important. And so that's where I think we can help bridge this gap, because it's 90% a perception gap and 10% a representation gap. But that 10%, if everybody worked on that 10% and we work on that 90% over here at we're calling ourselves Leadership now, but who knows, maybe we'll have a new name soon, then I think we can really help bridge that and start to get a lot more people hired. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really appreciate that you're helping Pakistani people, because I've also done research on remote job, I've researched some companies and some remote jobs. So they say that they're providing this opportunity on a remote base, you can work from your own country, but they have some location specific, like you have to be in India, you have to be in United States, or you have to be in Bangladesh. So what I was seeing, that there are not many opportunities for Pakistani people. They don't say that we are that it's a remote position and you can apply from Pakistan. So there were very few companies I searched, I've searched up till 2 or 3 companies who are saying that they can hire from anywhere. So there are a few companies who are providing opportunities for this. And what you are saying that is same, that we don't that Pakistani people are more focused towards the freelancing side. So you want to challenge that Pakistan talent is not only for freelancing, but we can also hire for remote positions. And as you said that there's a recession going on, So more startups would want to work in less cost-effective strategy, and I want to work on that same thing because there's a huge challenge over here, like our top university graduate, but they don't have that opportunity. They have a huge talent. They are very talented, I know, but due to their location, majority says that they can't apply or they don't have work authorization. So I think it will be a great opportunity for them, and it will be a huge success for us.
Yeah, and I want to say something for your listeners just to make sure that everybody understands where I'm coming from here. I think that that one of the important realities of the next 20 years is that there's going to need to be a lot of shifting in terms of what companies do. So I mean, my vision and what I think is going to happen in 15-20 years is the Pakistani people who work now for remote companies, in 10-20 years they're going to be the founders of new remote companies that go global as well. And for way too long in the remote world, it has been mostly people who are white, look like me, who are engineers who get the jobs, and then they can travel over the world, or maybe they're not, but they're from the West and they're able to leverage their passports to go live in cost-effective locations. I think that's been great, but I think that in order to rebalance the world, we need to empower more people from Pakistan, for example, right? And then let them become the founders so that the world can balance out in terms of where talent and where companies that are hiring remotely come from. I would love to see a world where in 10 to 15 years, there are some great unicorn startups in Pakistan who can hire people from San Francisco. That would be a fun story to tell, because I think there's no reason why that can't happen. So that's another part of what drives me, because I think that people in the West have had a lot of opportunity, and systems perpetuate themselves. So if we don't do something to change that, it will keep going the way it's going. And that doesn't mean I don't support people in the US getting hired too, but I just want to focus on that rebalancing. So I want to make sure I say that, because just in case anybody from the US watches and thinks, oh, listen to this guy, he's talking about stealing jobs. I know how it goes, but that's my motivation. So yeah, Mohammed, what other questions do you have for me?
Okay, so I have a last question. As we are working on it, so I believe that the thought process should be clear, and as you are saying that we need to provide value. So I want my audience to understand what is the value, or how they can provide value. I was discussing, we shouldn't give 8 hours or 9 hours or 10 hours. And we should give value. So they were able to understand what is value. I say that if a company is facing any problem or any process, so how you can make it better or how you can benefit them. So I want to discuss on the mindset of providing value. What should be the mindset, or what is value? I want my audience to understand this.
This is such a great question. So I want to give you, let's start with an overview of what a business usually values, okay? Because these days things are changing. Patagonia recently donated their entire fortune to fighting climate change. So I think value is evolving as a concept. But if we just think about traditional business, there's really one thing that they care about at the end of the day, and that's revenue or profit, right? And I mean, in order to achieve that, there's lots of sub-factors. So one thing is you want to keep your workforce happy. So you want to keep the people you're working with you, the talented people, so that they don't go away. And one of the easiest ways to win that value is just to be present. Things can get hard sometimes. I know I was previously at a company where things were not easy every day. And so it's about rolling with the punches. Of course, I never would advocate for anybody to work somewhere where they feel like they're not being valued or they're not growing. If you feel that way, it's okay to start looking elsewhere, especially if you've put in the time 1-2 years and you're like, nope, this isn't working for me. But if in the beginning it's just sticking with it. Another thing though that I think is really important is along those lines is looking at where things can be more efficient. So imagine I had a colleague from Bangladesh, and she was wonderful. She did a lot of manual work, data entry, sometimes 8+ hours a day, which is not what I want for anybody working remotely, because I want people to be thinking strategically about, what is the bigger kind of impact I can make. But sometimes you need people to work on those lower level tasks. So one of the things that I did when I became her team lead is she and I and her immediate team lead, because I was actually the department head, looked at where we could automate away some of her work. And in doing so, we made the processes way more efficient so that she could focus, instead of like typing in data entry, she could focus on automating more and more of that away. And automation saves money and it saves time. So then the company can say, instead of hiring another 5 people, I'm going to automate these tasks. So that's one way you can add value. And of course, that creates tension. But then the reality is there's another way you can add value, which is much easier. And there will always be a need for more people who are good at doing this. And that's making the company money. So sales, customer success, these kind of roles where you're directly involved with getting customers and then helping them stay around and helping them, buy more things, right? That's a very key thing. And that's why sales has always been the easiest job to measure, because you can tell, is someone make a sale or no? So for that kind of role, it's straightforward. But believe it or not, even in roles where you're not directly selling or upselling the product, you can still be focusing on making more revenue. And there's 2 ways to do it. One is find ways to cut cost, not people cost, software cost, process cost. One of the best things that someone can do in a remote company, especially a startup, is help everybody get on the same communication platform using the same tools. It makes things more efficient, but it also makes things more cost effective. Because let's take, for example, my previous company. We were using 3 different chat tools, each of which cost us either time or money. We were using 2 or 3 different document management softwares and some other different kind of softwares. We brought all of that together into one with Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365. That was huge for the company, right? They were able to consolidate, save money, save time, save effort, and that's another way you can add value. So again, that comes down to both revenue and efficiency. Another thing you can do is you can see, I see that this is costing us money. Maybe you're in customer support. You see, hey, our response rate is only 15 minutes, and I think we're losing some customers because we're not getting back to them fast enough. How can we get back to them faster? So really it comes down to identifying places where there's a process that's inefficient or not working well enough to deliver value, and in exchange get revenue, and then offering solutions for how to fix that. That is the ultimate way. Or again, looking for inefficiencies and finding ways to say, hey, let's solve this inefficiency, and as a result, increase value. And then of course, Mohammed, just to kind of close this off, there are a lot of times where value is not measured in terms of efficiency or in terms of revenue. In those instances, it's important to pay attention to the company's values. So again, if the company really cares about something like environmental protection, well then look at the way that technology is being used, that staffing policies are happening, maybe even propose an initiative in the company like an educational program around keeping the lights off when you're not working to save power. I don't know. You have to look at the individual company's other values beyond revenue and efficiency, and see if you can find ways to meet those needs. But that's always what it comes back to: looking for problem, finding a solution, proposing the solution, and then doing your best to execute on that solution. Yeah, that was a lot. Thanks for bearing with me there.
So it was great. It was great because what my point is, or what I want my audience to understand, is that the revenue or profit or money is the byproduct of what value you are giving or what impacting you are creating. So the more impact you create, or the more you change the life of other people, or you help the more people, then you will be getting more revenue and more profit. So it's a two-way. Money is just a byproduct. That's what I want them to understand. So as you said in your post, like, it's about giving value. So it's instead of thinking like I can earn this much or I can earn this much, try to think like how can I create impact, or how can I give the value to the company or the business or the people, or how can it make the process better and more efficient. So I want my audience to understand this concept, and it will help them a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's a great point. It's a great point.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you for putting it that way. Sorry, I just wanted to say thank you, because there's something really important. Sometimes even the business leaders will struggle with this, depending on their background. So they may think the only way to get value, or the only way to get revenue, is to make sales. I've seen this before, and unfortunately, it's a kind of mentality that a lot of old school bosses have. But one of your roles as a remote employee, because you might start in one role, and then if you do enough projects where you add value, you can totally switch to a different role. I've done it 3 times in my remote career in less than a year. So I share that to say that if you can prove that, hey boss, look, we made this much more money, and we saved this much more money because we solved this problem, they'll be happy. And oftentimes they need that too, because they're used to thinking about it from the perspective of sales. Sorry about all that background noise. Here in Turkey, they really like to make loud noises on the road, no matter what. But anyway, I hope that adds. And you were going to say something, Mohammed. Sorry about that.
I'm going to say that it was great. Like we touched the main points, like what is a remote job and the difference between freelancing and probably what should be the mindset, and how Pakistani people can get those remote jobs. So I probably believe that in the near future we will be discussing more about the mindset and strategies, and how we can highlight the Pakistani talent and work on the mindset of Pakistani talent, and also work on highlighting those talent to the US or European countries, so that we can we can bridge that gap between these two. Yeah. This would be our long-term goal.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was a great conversation with you, man.
Yeah, great. With you too. And I'm super excited to dive deeper into those topics. I would just say to your listeners, one of the things is, mostly employers care about what you can deliver in terms of value. Increasingly, the smart employers are no longer thinking about countries. Even if you see a job that says it's specifically hiring from a country, try to dig a little deeper to figure out whether or not they're only for that country. Because maybe they're open to hiring from Pakistan, they just didn't even think of it. And if you apply, and you apply the right way, you stand a good chance. On that note, Mohammed, I want to just say thank you so much for all your efforts on this. I'm excited to talk again. And in the meantime, if anybody's interested, I'll share my newsletter. I'd love to, combine forces and see how much value we can help people bring to the table, so that it's a no-brainer. It's obvious to hire them. I'm super excited to talk again soon.
I'm also super excited, man, and thanks a lot for highlighting Pakistani people and Pakistani talent. It will be a huge help for us, I must say. Yes. So thanks a lot.
It's my pleasure. Some other day we can talk about how Pakistanis saved my job. But for now, I think we're going to run out of time, man. So I'll send you the recording in just a few minutes, all right? It's really been a pleasure. And I'll send you that call invite once I have a clear idea of the platform. It's almost done. So,
okay.
Cool,
great, man.
All right. Talk to you soon. Look for the recording in LinkedIn shortly.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye, man.
Bye.